Morning, everybody. Thanks for your patience. Thank you for being here. Rob Bonta, California Attorney General. And I want to first and foremost express my gratitude to the Director of the California Department of Housing and Community Development, Gustavo Velasquez, who is standing side by side with me today. Once more, we are working together to enforce California's important housing laws to ensure that more housing is built across the state. And I want to thank him for his ongoing partnership, collaboration, and leadership. And today we are announcing a lawsuits against 5 California cities that are out of compliance with state housing law. And those 5 cities are Calexico, Costa Mesa, Half Moon Bay, Turlock, and Ridgecrest. 5 cities out of compliance with critical housing law in California. And this enforcement effort is part of a broader statewide initiative led by my office, led by Governor Newsom and the Department of Housing and Community Development to ensure that all local governments meet their legal obligations to plan for housing, just to plan for housing. And I want to acknowledge also that there has been recent progress made in a number of cities, 4 cities in particular: Atwater, Grand Terrace, Oakdale, and Escalon. They will come into compliance in August. And I just want to point that out because if you are committed to coming into compliance, you can come into compliance. If you are dedicated, if you work with us, and Atwater, Grand Terrace, Oakdale, and Escalon have taken a different path, the appropriate path that the 5 cities we are suing today elected not to take by not coming into compliance at this time with housing laws. So we appreciate those jurisdictions for taking the necessary steps to meet their obligations. We hope today's action encourages the remaining cities to do the same. And I want to say that right now, 95% of cities, of the 540 cities and counties, the jurisdictions subject to housing laws in California, are in compliance. The super majority are in compliance. These 5 that we are suing today are outliers. They are scofflaws. They are the ones where others similarly situated, their size, near the coast, with some of the same issues, have been able to come into compliance, but these 5 have not. At its core, these lawsuits are about accountability and about ensuring that every community does its part to address California's housing shortage. I've said before, and I'll say it again, we are in a state of emergency in California when it comes to housing production. We are in a state of crisis. We need to build more housing immediately. And no single local jurisdiction, no city, no county is responsible for building all of the housing that we need in California. But every city, every county is responsible for building some of the housing that we need. They need to do their part, build their fair share. And if they do, together, collectively, in aggregate, we can overcome the challenges that we have and build sufficient housing in California to make sure that housing is affordable to everyone who wants it, and that we make the dream of home ownership something that's accessible once more to Californians. The housing element law is not optional. It is a requirement designed to ensure that cities plan for their fair share of housing at all income levels. When cities fail to follow the law, they're not just violating deadlines, they are delaying crucial rezoning and planning for housing that families desperately need across household income levels. California's housing element law reflects a clear commitment to taking on our state's housing crisis. It's imperative that everyone comply. Each city and each county is required to adopt a legally compliant housing element that identifies adequate sites and policies to meet the needs of their area. They need to plan to build more housing in their city, in their county. This process ensures that all jurisdictions share responsibility for addressing California's housing crisis. This is a responsibility we all share together. The Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD, reviews each housing element for compliance, and then it works with local governments to help them meet statutory requirements. When a jurisdiction fails to adopt a compliant housing element within the required time frame, as these 5 cities all have, and jurisdictions slow walk the process or refuse to cooperate with HCD, that's when my office comes in. We're here to ensure that the law is followed, plain and simple, and that's exactly what we're doing today, ensuring that the law is being followed in California. HCD found that the 5 cities I listed earlier remain out of compliance with housing element law. They've failed to meet clearly laid out deadlines for adopting compliant housing elements. And after having multiple opportunities to correct course, they've continued to choose to not comply. While many cities across California have worked constructively with us and are now in compliance or nearing compliance, these 5 jurisdictions have still not met their legal obligations. In all of these cases, compliance has been delayed for years. They have missed deadlines by 3.5 years or more. 3.5 years. In some, required zoning actions remain incomplete, preventing the housing elements from achieving full compliance under state law. So they need to plan to build more housing through their housing element, and then they need to rezone as necessary to ensure their housing element can be implemented. HCD has made multiple efforts to work with each jurisdiction, including issuing notices of violation, offering technical assistance, and providing opportunities to address deficiencies. Unfortunately, these cities have instead chosen to break the law and shirk their responsibility to help address the lack of housing in our state. As a result, we're seeking a court order requiring each jurisdiction to bring its housing element into compliance. Consistent with past enforcement actions that we've had to take, we'll work with any willing jurisdiction to enter into a stipulated judgment to establish a clear and accelerated compliance pathway, if they wish to do that. Otherwise, we'll go through the litigation process. The goal is not litigation for the sake of litigation. It's 100% compliance with the most basic building block of California's plan for housing affordability, the housing element. We want compliance. We want 100% compliance from all cities. Where cities fail to meet their obligations, we'll step in and hold them accountable, which is what we're doing today. These tools exist for a reason, to ensure that the law is followed and that delays don't undermine statewide housing production goals. The housing element law isn't forcing cities to build housing themselves. I want to be clear about that. We're not saying to the cities, you have to build housing. We're saying you have to plan for housing to be built in your city. The law is simply asking cities to plan for housing. I want to be clear on that. This, accordingly, should not be a big lift. Local leaders may wonder why now, when cities and counties have historically been permitted to belatedly adopt housing elements. Just because something was permitted in the past doesn't make it right, and this culture of delay is unacceptable. We are done with delays. We are demanding accountability and compliance now. Because every day of delay means delayed housing opportunities for families, delayed housing opportunities for workers, delayed housing opportunities for seniors and young people across California, and they cannot wait. It's no secret that California's housing shortage is one of the most pressing challenges facing our state. Every delay in compliance translates into delayed housing opportunities for families, for workers, seniors, and young people across the state. The housing element framework can only address it, can only work if every city participates fully and on time. When some cities fail to act, the burden falls unevenly on others and on Californians who are already struggling with affordability. This enforcement action is about ensuring fairness, ensuring accountability, and ensuring the integrity of a system designed to address a statewide crisis. We remain committed to working collaboratively with local governments to achieve compliance and support the development of housing that Californians need, and that is very true for these 5 cities. If you wish to work with us, we wish to work with you to get you into compliance. But you have left us no other choice at this time but to sue you and take you to court. and hold you accountable. At the same time, of course, while we want to work collaboratively when possible, we won't hesitate to enforce the law when cities fail to meet their obligations, as these 5 have. So today's announcement reflects both of those commitments. And before I open it up to questions and turn it over to Director Velasquez, I want to take a moment to thank members of my office's Housing Justice team for their incredible work. John Natalizio, Joseph Eisenstadt, Nina Linkoff, Thomas Kinzinger, Daniel Olivas, David Pye, and Alex Fish, a great team helping ensure housing justice across the state and compliance with housing law. So thank you, and with that, I'll turn it over to HCD Director Gustavo Velasquez, and then we'll both circle back for questions if there are any at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney General. Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Gustavo Velasquez, Director of the California Department of Housing and Community Development. That was a very thorough summary, explanation. Thank you, Attorney General. Thank you for taking the action that you and your team are taking today. We appreciate it. Today's announcement, as the Attorney General said, is another example through the leadership of our governor, working closely with Mr. Bonta, taking on housing and homelessness head-on. This announcement is, as he said, about taking action to enforce state policies in every single community, not just where it is easy. If it was so easy, we wouldn't be here. This is difficult work, but necessary work, and work that is about abiding to state law. Each and every city and county in California must do its part to addressing our housing crisis. When Governor Newsom created the HCD Housing Accountability Unit, this was about 5 years ago, about the same time the Attorney General created this housing task force here at the Department of Justice that then became the Housing Justice Team. These were unprecedented steps at the state level, demonstrating both of their commitments and firm and sustained commitment to building more housing, and it is the reason why we are here. Today's announcement is about the tools in our toolbox. We have an incredible toolbox to solve the homelessness and housing affordability crisis here in the state. I always refer to this toolbox as a three-legged stool. You have historic investments in housing, never seen before Governor Newsom came into office. We have an incredible amount of housing policy reform that we've seen in the last few years, working with the state legislature. And we know the Attorney General knows very well about this because he authored a lot of housing bills before becoming Attorney General in the legislature. And it's been an incredible evolution of housing policy reform, streamlining, CEQA reform, just all of this housing legislation to accelerate and bring to scale the level of housing, especially affordable housing, that we need. And the third leg, enforcement and accountability. It really is about bringing local governments to the table and compel them to do their part. Housing production starts and ends with local government. We said this before. It is local governments that entitle, that permit, that approve housing. The state is just a facilitator, is really working hand by hand with the localities to ensure that this necessary housing gets built. As the Attorney General said, 95% of cities across the state have stepped up and made sure their cities and counties are laying the foundation for new housing in their communities. When local jurisdictions aren't willing to step up, the consequences of our housing and homelessness crisis don't end at city lines. They ripple across every region in our state. Working families, seniors, young people, people experiencing homelessness have paid the price, and what we are announcing today is part of that toolbox to get California on the right path to build more housing. The 5 jurisdictions named in today's filing, again, thank you, Attorney General, have had every opportunity to come into compliance. We have spent years providing technical assistance, warnings, noticing, face-to-face virtual meetings, every opportunity, and still they have failed to act while we have tried to work in good faith. What is at stake is, think about this number, 24,000 housing units needed across the cities. This isn't about making them build. It's about planning, making sure that land in their communities is available to plan for the adequate amount of housing that their residents and workers need. That's 24,000 households and their residents could have a path to a home in their communities where they work, where the kids go to school, maybe where they grew up. Every jurisdiction that fails to meet its obligations is simply shifting the burden and asking everyone else to make up for that difference. We cannot solve our housing crisis if even a small number of communities are allowed to sit on the sidelines, and that is what we're doing together. The actions we're taking are saying enough is enough. This is not the first time the state has used its enforcement authority, and unfortunately, it will likely not be the last. But this is a great partnership, Governor with the Attorney General. So I want to recognize him and the Housing Justice team. He mentioned the names of this amazing group of attorneys working hand by hand with the Governor's Office legal team, Cynthia Stein, with our HCD Legal Affairs team, Brandon Williams and Marty, and our Housing Accountability team led by David Caesar and Melinda Coy, who has joined us here today. Thank you for all these incredible efforts. Alex Fish, David Pye, over at the Attorney General's office, thank you for everything you do every day. And together we will continue to act to uphold state housing law and ensure that every community does its part to provide a safe and affordable home for all Californians. These actions are not the end. Dozens of jurisdictions still have not achieved that compliance, but while some are closer than others, we hope that the message from today's announcement is clear. Just as the need for new housing isn't going away, neither is the state. Neither is this amazing group of people in the Department of Justice doing what is necessary. For those cities and counties that continue to drag their feet, the administration is committed to providing the assistance. We're always going to be there, providing technical assistance and persistence when needed to make new housing a reality and ensure that every Californian has a fair shot at a place to call home. Again, Attorney General, thank you very much for the action today.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Mr. Director. And I just want to give another shout out to Governor Gavin Newsom and the legislature, who over the last number of years, including a time I had the honor of serving in the legislature, have passed more laws to make the building of more housing easier, to have by-right housing, expedited housing, and streamlined housing being built. And so the state has taken a firm position that we want to make it easier to build the things that we need. We need more housing. It's the abundance framework, the principle of abundance. The things we want more of, we got to make it easier to build. And the laws of the state of California reflect that now, and I personally believe that they are appropriate. A fundamental building block of building more housing in California is that the local jurisdictions need to plan for it. Plan for it with a certified housing element, and then rezone as necessary to make their planning to build more housing realistic. That's what we're asking. Nearly all the local jurisdictions in the state have complied. But these five have not. That's why we're holding them accountable. And as the director mentioned, when you have a shared responsibility, when you're all trying to carry a heavy lift together, if someone does less, like these five cities have, that means others have to do more. That's both unfair and it's illegal. And so we are enforcing the law to make sure that these five cities do their job, carry their weight, fulfill their legal responsibilities in planning to build more housing in their local jurisdictions. And with that, I'd be happy to open it up to any questions that you may have. All right. I guess we laid it all out there. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you.